Greetings everyone and welcome back. Here is where we stopped in our last video, whereby we loaded our partials inside our web here, and we stopped there. So let's continue from here. So what we're going to do, we're going to create a mockup inside our employee list. For now, I'm just going to remove the table body from the employee list partial. I'll go back to our employee list, which is this one here, and I will add some of the mockup that we're going to use inside our employee list. So one of the things I'm going to do in this card here, I just want to give it some padding on the, and actually I'm just going to give it a padding of 1 on all sides, and also for the body I'll still give it a padding of 1, but this one I'll give it on the horizontal line. On the horizontal line of this card body I will have a padding of 1. And also another thing I want to do, I want to give it a background color of white, and yeah, that's what I want to do for my card body. Another thing I'm going to do, I'm going to have another division just right here, and this one will be a flex box. So I'll say display flex, and what I can do for now, I'm going to justify, just want to justify content, and I'm going to have it justified between. So we have a flex box which will justify its contents between all the contents of this flex box will be aligned horizontally. And now after that, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to create another flex box inside the current flex box. So I'm going to create that division, and I'm going also to say display flex, but this one I'm going to justify its content to the beginning. So I'll say justify content, and this one should be start like that. So my aim here is to have 2 containers inside the first container, and now again I'm going to have another container inside our original container, and this one, as you could guess, I want it to be displayed on the right side. So the contents of the second division here, I want it to be displayed on the right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to justify content of this one to the right. So if I put anything here like that, and another content inside my second block, I'll go and see how is that. We should have some content in the beginning and another content at the end, and here we do. We have some content in the beginning and the other content at the right side of our page. So that was my aim, and for now what I can do, I'm inside the first division here, I'm going to have a row, and I'll just say I want to have a row and have division with the class row. And what I want to do with this row, I'm going to have its width spanning the whole division like that. So width I will put to be 100, which is equivalent to 100%, And now I'm going to have a column. Let's say I'll have a column 12 if it's if the width is very if the width is very small. It means then if we're in a small screen, I will just take 12, and I will have a margin bottom of 1, and if the I will have a medium screen. On the medium screen, I want these columns to be 2, like that. And now inside here, I can have an input. I'm going to have a form group, like that. And I'm just going to have an input. And this input, I'm going to have a class of form control, like that. And since this one will be our starting date, I'll put the content, the type to be date, like that. And I can just, for now, I'm going to have a placeholder, and I'm going to say is 20th, 20th and 06, then 2022, like that. I'm gonna save that. I'll go back to my browser. I'll try to bring that in, and we have a very tiny input here. So what I can do with my input here, I'm just going to go back to the code, and in this flexbox here, I'm just going to say I'll have a width of 100%. I'll save that. I'll go back. I'll try to reload the same page, and now we have our input having displayed correctly, and we can choose the date from here. Okay, let's go ahead and have some properties of this input. What I want to do, I want to give this input name, so just going to say name, and the name I'll say date from, and then again I'm going to have an ID. I'll give it the same value as the value for our name, like that. And another thing I want to do is I don't want this input here to have these shadows when we click on it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove those shadow of that shadow by giving it a class, and this class will be shadow none. So shadow, I'll say now I don't want to have shadows when my input is focused. So if I do that and I come back to my page, now you can see we don't have the shadow when we have our form focused on. So that is the first input. What we can do, I'm just going to copy the same, going to paste it here, and everything else will remain the same apart from the date from. I'll change this date from now to be date 2. I'll to have the same value as name and ID, like that. So if I go ahead and save that and go back to my website here, now we have two inputs where we have the date from and date to. All right, so after that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to have another input. So I'll have another input, but this time I'm going to have a select like that, and I'm going just to close my selection around here, and this selection will be for my per page. So how many rows I need per page? So I'll say per page. I'll give it a name of per page, same as the ID. I think the other thing will be just the same. I'll remove the type. I don't need the type for this. And I'm going to have around let's say six options. So I will say option. I'll create an option. I'll multiply it by 6. And the first one will be just 10, and I'll say 10. The other one will be 50 rows per page, which would be 50. And the second one I'm going to say 100, which is 100. It's its value in the title. Then 200, which is 200. And then I'm going to have 300, 300. And the one, I'm just going to say 400. You can put as much as you like, but for me, I'm just going to stop at 400. After that, I'm going to have the employee status. So I'm just going to copy this input here. Just going to copy this column, the whole column. Going to come here, and I'm going to say this one should now change from per page to employee status. Employee status like that, same. And I'm going to have maybe five statuses, and here I'm going to say active, but then active will be maybe you can say active is 1, and then here will be active, and then maybe 0 for inactive, and I'm just going to say male, then female, and the other one I'll just say all of my employees. So I'm going to have it like that. This one I'm just going to say male. Actually, I'm just going to put a string, female, and then I'm going to have all like that. We'll not be implementing this selection or these filters for now, but we just want them to be there. Another field I'm going to have is the with selected. In case we select more than one employee or even one employee, then we'll have what do we want to do with the selected group of employees. So I'm just going to remove the placeholder for the selections. I don't need the selection placeholder anyway. I can just put the first option to be that one. I don't want to have to select none, so because I have select all already here for my employee status, so here I'm just going to remove because I don't have that for with selected. So this one I'm just going to call it with selected, and to have the same name as the ID value. And here I'm going to have I can say with selected because we don't know what this one does. So the first option will be with selected, and to have a value of a nothing or an empty string for this matter. So, and here I'm going to say deactivate. If we select multiple, we're going say maybe we could deactivate those employees that we've selected, or we could mark them as active, all of them. And we could also do something else, like we can say we have mass delete. We want to delete so many employees, and here we can just say deactivate. Then on the activator, just say activate, and on the delete, or just pass a string of delete, like that. After that, I will have another input. Just going to copy this, and after this one, I'm just going to have another input here, and this one will be text. A placeholder will be search, and name will be search, and also it will be search for the ID. So after that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to save this one. I'm going to see my browser, and here if we reload now, we can see that we have all our inputs that we've created. So we have a date from, date to, we have how many records per page we need, and we have whether it's active, inactive, and we can also select all. We selected, we could act on these selected ones, and here we could search through our records. So after that, I'm going to build the right this guy here. I'm going to build the buttons for the right side, and the first button, I'm just going to call it a print. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to have a row. So I'll create a row, and inside this row, I'm going to have just a division, and in this division, I'm going to say text. I'm going to align the contents of this division to the right by using text right bootstrap class. And then here, what I'm going to have a button. So button with class btn from bootstrap. Then I'll have the outline of the btn. I'll say btn outline, and the color of outline I want to be warning, so it's a yellowish color, like that. And also I don't want any shadows on my button, so I'll say shadow none as well, like that. And the contents or the title of this button, I'm going to have an icon, which I'll give class of text success. Instead of success, I'm just actually going to have a warning so that I can match the color of the button and the icon inside the button, like that. Something else I'm going to have a data ID property. So let me say data, then ID. It will be let me say status, maybe. And another one data property I'm going to have is the feather, so that we can have the feather icons. And the icon that I'm going to choose for this button will be a printer. So I'm going to save that. I'll go back to my browser, and here you can see we have the icon of printer on the right side of our page. So so I can create the other buttons just the same. What I need to do, I just need to copy this button around here and paste it. Just going to paste it multiple times, but here I'm going to change the color inside. I'll say our success color for these ones, that it gives us the green outline. And instead of having a printer here, I'm just going to have a file text like that. I'll copy this button again. Actually, I copied the whole thing. I only need the button. Okay. Like that. And this should be inside my text, right? And I'm going to paste again another button, and this one I'm going to have it having a danger outline, same as the icon inside. And what I can have here is maybe just file like that. I'm going to have another button below after this one, and this one I don't want to have an icon inside. I could have a plus icon, but I don't want to. You can put any icon or any text that you want. I'm going to change this one to info color, and here I'm going to say new employee. That way I'm going to save that. I'll go back and I'll reload the page, and now we have 3 icons and 1 employee add employee button on our page. So let's continue, and as you can see, we don't have button. That's because we are missing something on the outline. So we need them to be outlined. I must have misspelled the outline like that. I'm going to save. I'm going to reload my page again, and now we have the outline. We can see that this button is misplaced, so let's take care of this button. And the way I'm going to do that, I'm going to say I'm going to have width of this one to be 50%. I'm going to align my text to the right, and that should take care of my button. So if we go back to the web page and reload, now we have our alignment arranged correctly. And now we have that one. What we also need to do is to go back to the partials and also create the table that will be casted into this page when we request the data from the backend. So let's go to the partials, and here we're going to create our table that it's going to be cast inside the list. So let's go ahead and do that. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to copy my table. I have a division before my table, and what I'm going to do here, I'm going to have a table responsive in the outer division, and inside my table I'm going to have a table class. And here, instead of saying table, instead of having a table light, what I'm going to have is the table hover like that. After that, I'm going to have the table head, so I'll have t head like that. And inside the t head, I'm going to have t head row, so I'm going to have a tr like that. And inside the tr, I'm going to have the table headers themselves, so the th and I'm going to have a couple of them. I will have a couple of them. I'm going to have 9 of them for now, like that. And the first table here will be just the number of the index. So we're going to have the index number, and I'll have a class which will be, I want the number to be at the center of the column, so text center. I'll have the text center for my serial number of my index number. And the second one, I'm going to have a checkbox in the second table here and here. Also, I have a checkbox at the center of my column, so I will say text center as well, like that. And I'll have a checkbox inside here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to have a division with a class form check, like that. And inside here, I'm just going to have an input, which will be of course a form check input. So I'm going to say form check input, like that. I'm going to have a type as checkbox, of course, to the checkbox, and a value. For now, I'm just going to have a value of an empty array. And ID, I'll say select all will be the ID of the checkbox. And what I can do for now, I'll have a property selected, so that by default it will be selected. So what I need also to have here is the checkbox label, and of course it will be for the select all checkbox. And class will be form check label. So I'm just going to have a class here. I'll paste there, but instead of input now to be a label, and the name of this label, I'll just say select all. So we click this, we expect that we select all the employees listed on our page, and if we click it on the second time, it means that we're going to deselect all the selected employees that we've already checked. So after the checkbox, I'm going to have an image column. I'm going to have a class which will be text center, of course, and here I'm just going to say image. You could say whatever you want to say for this column, but for me I'll just say image, like that. After the image, I'm going to have another column which will have our name, and for the name I'll have a class, and I'm going to say I'll want my name to be aligned to the left, so I'll give it a class of text left. After the name, I'm going to have our email, same as my name. I want the email to be also aligned to the left. Then I have phone number, and I'm going to have a phone here, and as well my phone will be aligned to the left. Then I have status like that, and I think this one should be here, and my status will want to be aligned at the center, so this will be a center class. I'll just copy this center class here, and I will have it on this side. I will have my edit button here, and also I'll have my delete column around here, and all these will have a class of text centers that the content can be at the center of the column. I'm going to save that. I'm going to go back to the browser around here. I'm going to reload, and now we should see we have our form header being displayed. We have our checkbox, we have our index form, then the image, the name, email, phone status, editing the list that we created inside our partials file. And this is the partials file that we are talking about. And if you notice, we have the header now. What we need to write here is the table body. So we can say t body, which will be which will have the rows carrying our data. And if we just firstly, if we just write a row here, for example, let's say tr, and inside this tr we're going to have tds, or the table data. So td, and I'm going to have 9 of them, just same as our table header here. So here I'm just going to say the first one will be 1, of course. Then I'll have the email. Then I'll have this one should be name, then email, and I think before that I should have image, then name. This one will be email. Then I have my font here, and then after font I'm going to have my status. So I think we left something outside. I'm going to have this one here will be the image, and this one will be the checkbox. So what I can do, I'm just going to back to my checkbox here. I'll copy the checkbox inside my th. I'll bring it back down here. I'll remove the selector all. I don't want to have any label here. So what I can do, I'm going to say and BSP like that. So I just have a space, an empty space that will do. And what I can do, I'm going to have a class here. Then I'll say text center, which will center my checkbox. So after the font, I'll have status, and after the status, I'm going to have the edit button and the delete button. For the edit button, I'm just going to have an icon. So I'll have a feather icon, and I'm going to have a feather icon with class text info for my edit, like that. And I will have data feather, of course, which will be, for now I'm just going to have the edit icon. I'm going to copy this icon to my delete, and instead of info here I'll say danger for a red color, and instead of edit I'll say delete icon, I'm also going to say this icon will float on the right, like that. So if I save this and go back to my browser and try to reload this, now we can see we have one record inside our data which we've put here manually, and we're going to fetch data from the server, so that we don't need to put here static data but dynamic data that will be coming from our database. So we can see what we don't have here though is the icons. For the icons, what we can do for the icons, what I'm going to do for now, just to solve this problem, I'll go inside my list here, and I'll go to the master, which is this one here. I'll go down and I'll check where I have initialized my feather icons, and I'll copy this initialization from here, as well as the one in the head, as well as this one. I'll copy both of them. I'll go inside my partial file, and here what I'm going to do, I'm just going to have a script. I'll have a script, and I'll paste what I copied from the other side, and I'll remove this one from the scripts. Of course, doesn't need to be there. I'll save that. I'll go back to my browser. I'll reload, and now we should have our icons being displayed here. What we can do, we can send the delete and edit, same as status, that they align with the raw data. So what I'm going to do, back in my table here, we've already centered the table head data. So what we're going to do, we're going to send the status, the edit, and the other one, which is delete, and we're going to have a class, it's a class, and should be text center, like that. So after that, if we save this and go back to our browser and try to reload the browser, we can see now we have the centered data. Of course, this one should not be centered because we pushed it to the right. We should push that one to the right as well. So here, instead of saying center, I'm going to say right. I save that. I reload the page again once more, and now we should have our delete button still not pushed to the right. So I know why. It's because we're pushing the data, and we're not pushing the column header here. So this one should be to the right, like that, and not center as we had previously done. So this one should work correctly. It should push our delete header to the right. And another thing that we don't have arranged correctly is the select all and image. So let's go ahead and see what we can do. The image here is correctly centered, but on the other side here it's not. So going to have a class, and we say text center, and here we are centering our checkbox, and here as well. So what we can do, image is centered, the one is centered, and name and email same as our phone, we're going to have them on aligned on the left. So I'm going to paste the left class here. I go back to my browser, I reload the page, and we have our image now aligned. The only one we don't have aligned is the select all and the checkbox that is supposed to align with. So the number here, which is the index, what I'm going to do, I'm going to say class text should be left, like that. Same as this one, instead of saying it to be on the center, I will say left, like that. And there we go. So let's save this, go back to our browser and try to reload the browser here. We have our select box still not matched with our select all checkbox, but our number is okay, our image is okay, everything checks out. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to stop here with this video. When we come back, we will now fetch the data from our model and display it on our page. Thank you very much for being with me on this one. I will see you in the next one.